Hola ballers and a bro fist to you all, for it is Monday. We're back in school, we're back in work, and we're of course back to doing dailies. We're back to creating content that should hopefully in some way inspire you to be a better player, or in fact just make you smile in some fashion. Yeah, we had a great old weekend, no live content. I was just saying, it's weird when I go 2 days without doing something live. It feels odd. It feels uncomfortable not to be sat here looking at this little camera lens with its little red light and not talking to people from around the world. It feels really strange. Kind of a perk of the job, I guess. Kind of a perk of the job that I get to do this. So I appreciate every single one of you who tunes in live and those of you who watch on YouTube. Of course, we didn't leave you without anything to do over the weekend. We thought it was pretty cool that we finally, after weeks, say about 3 or 4 weeks of a few hours here and there, trying our hardest, completing awful games, we finally managed to bring you our first ever PG video. Now, I kind of want to talk about that before we get into our WoW subject of today, which we do have, is we finally released that on Saturday, and what an interesting response. Interesting. That's that word itself provokes thought, right? It's an interesting response. Firstly, not many people watched it. Kind of expected that. Kind of expected not a majority of the subscriber base to watch it, because it wasn't WoW. Right? It's kind of a big thing. This is one of the problems for any of you thinking of getting into YouTube and stuff like that. Tying yourself to one game can actually be very detrimental, because when you want to flex your wings, so to speak, and do something a little bit out of the box, people go, this isn't Warcraft. What is this? What the hell is this? Get it away. This isn't about Warcraft. I'm not watching that. Jesus Christ. What are you doing, Mike Reach? Wow. What are you doing, son of a bitch? Son of a bastard. Hate you. Why don't you make a PG about Warcraft? Why don't you do that? And it is kind of a pain in the it's kind of a pain in the ass, but I totally see the point, right? I make tons and tons of WoW content. Of course people come here for WoW content. Duh. I don't hate anybody for doing that. I'm not angry with anybody. But those of you who did watch it, that's the important bit. Those of you who did watch it, ridiculously positive response. And I thank you immensely for that. For our first outing. For our very first outing, very positive response. It's almost like up to 1,000 likes. Like only 4,000 people watched it so far, I think. And it's like 1,000 likes. On average, in a YouTube video, you expect something like 1 in 1,000 or 1 in 100 to like a video. To take the time to actually say, hey, I like this, thumbs it up. And to bother, maybe, if you're connected with YouTube around the world, if you're connected with friends and subscribed amongst it, is that people allowing other people to see that you like the video. That's the most important. So like, hey, this is a cool video, you should go and check it out. And that is what we got back from it, is that the people who did watch it loved it, from what we could tell. Absolutely adored it and just want more, and was like, yeah, this is great, we really want to see it, it's cool, it's a great start, is what I want to say there. It's a great start. We learned a lot of lessons. It's difficult for us to create such a video, because Ghost has such limited time. He doesn't work here full time. And it came out really well. I was kind of happy with it. And now you can see why we played such awful games. I did in fact play The Sims Busting Out. I want that on record, is I did actually, not for long, not for long, but I did actually play The Sims Busting Out. The whole point of a rule that we set when we were going to start making a video is that all the footage that we wanted in the videos would be by us. Because as you've seen, there's a big problem with some of the big videos I make, especially about classic WoW, and especially the big video that's coming out this week, which I've been working on today, which I really think you're going to like. It's a new type of series. The big video I've been making this week is hard because it involves a lot of legacy content. I can't go back and collect 1080p super high def footage of raiding in vanilla WoW. I can't do that. I would have to roll on some private server, which I don't want to do. And I'd have to go through a whole mess of situations to try and do that. So what I have to do is I have to contact YouTubers. That's what I have to do. I have to contact them, and I'm like, hey, can I use part of your video for one of my videos? I'm like, I make YouTube videos, and you've got this YouTube video that you haven't done anything with since like 2006. Can I use a clip of this? And then most of the time they just don't reply, and I'm like, well, you obviously don't give a shit. So can I use that? And then I get this wonderful, awesome 480p quality footage that I then try to translate into a 1080p video, and it just looks atrocious, right? We all agreed, especially the stuff I did on like what were those games, like EverQuest and things like that. They just look horrible, you know, they look disgusting. So we made the big conscious effort to get all our own footage, like Resident Evil. We had to complete Resident Evil for that 2 seconds clip of, is that the scariest spider ever? Can I ask you guys? Can I ask you guys, is the spider cabin from Resident Evil 1 the most terrifying in-game spider you've ever seen? Is there any contest? Because I don't give a shit about spiders in games at all, but that is particularly creepy. That is fucking horrible. That spider scene when you walk in that cabin, because although this spider web's all over Resident Evil, so it's not like you're prepared for it, and then you walk in that room and it's the biggest fucking giant hairiest spider I've ever seen. Well, King Kong the game, I have played King Kong, I didn't think they were that bad. Scared of Beth Tillak? Beth Tillak's not scary. Beth Tillak sucks. Skyrim spiders. Ghost did make mention of Skyrim spiders. He thought they were particularly scary, but I would go on record as saying, I think, from what I've seen, I haven't played every game, Resident Evil 1, the spider scene in that cabin is awful. That is horrible. It crawls down behind you. It's so loud. It's the detail they put into the hairs on its legs. Because it's not a great looking game. It's old as balls, right? It's old as what? Resident Evil's what? PlayStation 1? I want to say we have the GameCube version, which is like remastered, so it kind of looks better. But it's still an old as balls game. They put so much detail into the hairs and stuff like that. Oh, it's awful. Oh, it's cringeworthy. Even recording that was bad. And then, of course, we had to play all of Duke Nukem Forever for a, for a scene of the tease. What I will say, if you haven't watched it, I don't want to dwell on it too much. If you haven't watched it, go and check it out, because although it's not Warcraft, it's about Metro. It's not entirely designed to be like a serious thing or any way. It's just supposed to give you maybe a giggle here and there. It's like a funny thing with a content surrounding one subject. Subject is, of course, a different game, and then we just add stuff into it to make it interesting. So it's not about trying to sell you a game or anything like that. Or just give it a look. Give it a look. Let's talk about, firstly, of course, it's Web Show weekend. We've got the Web Show coming up on Saturday, where we'll obviously get ghost opinions and stuff like that. We'll talk about all sorts of crazy stuff. But I do want to say a big thank you to you guys as well, for those of you who have bought PG merchandise, because we don't make a lot of money on the PG merchandise. It was sort of like a thank you to guys who want to wear our stuff and enjoy the content and want names and stuff on the back of the hoodies and really like wanted to support us in some way. We decided about 6 months ago, or I decided, I should say, that the proceeds that we got from the PG merchandise would actually go towards a fund for something. And it's coming up this week, so we're going to make a little video to show you what that is. And we're going to make someone really, really happy who really deserves it. And we're going to do that. So I just want to say thank you to those guys who bought stuff from the store. I really appreciate it, because you allowed us to gradually build up the ability to make someone really, really happy. That's all down to you guys. We couldn't afford to spend anything we got from YouTube and blah, blah, blah. But we decided, okay, we'll use the store money. And that was, it's awesome. It's awesome. So I'm really looking forward to showing you that as well. Thank you. Thank you to you guys as well. Again, it's Web Show this weekend. So get your Brofists and stuff and your transmogs. Transmog competitions, right? I kind of want to touch on this, but I'll mention it again at the transmog. So many people are really mad about the transmog competition. I'm okay with it. I'm okay with it. Because it's always going to be that way with internet competitions, right? I'm really surprised the transmog competition still exists, because it's a lot of fun and it's generally fun. One thing to bear in mind is if you take something like a transmog competition really seriously, you're going to have a bad time. You're going to have a very, very bad time. You are, because it's completely opinionated and biased. We're the judges. I like what I like. That's pretty much it, right? Pretty much it. So raging about it is like is not going to affect us in any way. I have been told, and some guys in the chat brought it up, but Ghosty did mention it to us, and people get so pissed at the transfer competition. I actually think our winners are always the best. I do, genuinely, 100% of the time. We're completely honest. The winners are 100%. If we don't mention anything, like we do a stunned silence at your transmog, look, we're not trying to be cruel. What I'm saying to you is start again, right? That's what I'm saying to you. You might think it's really nice. It's not. It isn't. I'm sorry. I'm not going to lie to you. It's not. If we don't say anything about your transmog at all, it's not very good. That's just science, man. That's just science and facts. If it was worth a mention, we'd say something. It's okay if you got it wrong, right? Don't get all upset and offended. Just start again, because it's not very good. It's not very good. Do you know what I mean? It's not very good. Right then. Yeah. The themed one. I didn't really make enough mention of this on the web show, but in not this web show, the web show after. So you've got 3 more weeks. We're going to have a themed transmog competition, because people have been sending in transmogs like Thor. We've had miners and farmers and all sorts. Famous characters from like comic book universe, movie universe. We've had all people doing like fun things with their transmog to make them look like something else. Instead of just making my characters badass, A lot of people have started doing things like, hey, you know, I can make this character from, like, somebody even made Spider-Man, I think. We're going to have a separate competition for that in 3 weeks. Okay, so you've got 3 weeks to get those elusive drops and maybe even start working on it. And we'll have different prizes and stuff for that, okay? So if you want to do that, it's going to, not this web show after. We're going to have the themed transmog competition, okay? Make anything you want, as long as it looks like what it's supposed to be. And if you want to be a little cheeky devil, and we might not know everybody, okay? It is possible that we don't know every superhero in the world. As unlikely as that is as fellow nerds, it's entirely possible we don't. It's okay to go ahead and link a picture of what it's supposed to be, just in case. Okay, just in case. So if you're going for Carnage and you're just a red orc, then, you know, then you know you're going to have a bad time. So if you're trying something that's a little bit out there, maybe for some anime or something like that, we might not know who it is. Submit a picture and then we can compare it there and then. So we'll do it in 3 weeks' time. So we go to our WoW topic for today. Them Shamans, them Resto Shamans is what I want to talk about today. The Resto Shamans getting a hard rap. Tradition is important. Tradition dictates. It dictates, like the coming of the sun, it dictates that in the final patch of an expansion, Restoration Shaman become outrageously overpowered. It has happened every single time. Every single expansion World of Warcraft has ever had, Resto Shaman have been terrible, awful, useless additions to your raid until the final patch, and then their day in the sun comes. Their day in the sun comes, and they get some sort of tweak or rework, and they become so fucking awesome that you just want to stack Shamans till the ends of the earth. It was not uncommon in Sunwell, for instance, to have 5 Resto Shamans, or 4 Resto Shamans and an Enhancement Shaman. Something along those lines, okay? You wanted more than 3. Imagine that in a 25 raid where you were so powerful, a raid wouldn't really have a go at progression unless they had at least 3 Resto Shamans. And that started all about, like, BT and Hyjal and all that kind of stuff. And then again, we have the same in Kata, and we have the same all the way back in Wrath of the Lich King. Resto Shamans became awesome as shit then as well. It's not happening in Mr. Pandaria. You gotta be sad about that. It's not happening. Those Resto Shamans, man. Where's our buff? Is what they cry from the rooftops. They stand there and say, we have put up with your shit, Blizzard, throughout all of Mr. Pandaria. We started underpowered. We're still underpowered. Where's our golden fucking totem of death? Where is it? Where's our thing that makes us the prime? Where do we get to replace these monks and these resto druids and these paladins and these disc priests? I don't mention holy on purpose. Where are they? Where are the buffs? We deserve them. Tradition, baby. What do you mean there's no turkey at Christmas? What fucking nonsense is this? No bacon-wrapped sausages. I'm sorry for koshers. Sorry if people don't eat pork. But in the Western countries, let's say, not having sausages or pigs in blankets, as one likes to say, on one of these big Christmassy Thanksgiving-style dinners, that's just nonsense. It's craziness. You wouldn't have that. You wouldn't have that, would you? You don't have it. Pigs in blankets. Woo! Best day ever. Best day ever when you got a pile of sausages wrapped in bacon. And where are they? And the rest of Shaman are getting a little bit pissed because that doesn't appear to be coming in any shape or form. Healers are struggling. Ghostcrawler had some words on the subject which kind of prompted this topic. And his topic was HPS. HPS is a terrible, terrible way to measure a healer. This is kind of difficult. Recently, we've seen me even saying HPS is not a good way to measure a healer. It's not. It's not the be-all and end-all. What we don't say is, oh, you healed more, so you are better. That's it, right? As far as healers go. Healers have struggled since, say, I would say late Wrath of the Lich King, when Disc Priest started to become ridiculous. Anybody who remembers doing Mr. Arthas on top of his frozen throne will remember that Disc Priests were basically the linchpin and everyone else was there to support the Disc Priests. Whatever we do, we can't afford the Disc Priest to get killed. We must protect him. We must protect him with our lives. We must sacrifice all our mana to ensure our wonderful Disc Priest can just press one button. That's it. That's what a Disc Priest did. And every raid needed one. And they've struggled since then to really stand out. What makes a standout healer? How do you stand out in the crowd? Kind of a similar problem to tanks these days is sometimes you'll meet a tank and you can't really tell, is this guy any good? I don't know. I don't know, is this guy, is he any good? He's fast, I guess, but it's not hard to be a fast tank anymore, right? I've seen some awful players do gold challenge modes, which are super fucking awesome, right? Gold challenge modes, super terrible fucking tanks able to get through that on a pretty easily basis. Speed, so we can kind of counter out speed. Healers, where do you shine? What makes you amazing? A couple of things I would pick up on, but your average Joe isn't going to, and this is where the problem lies. Resto Shaman have terrible HPS. They do. That's just fact. Nothing you can do about that. They just do. In comparison to the others, they're just not up there. If a monk wants to demolish your healing, they can. If a druid wants to demolish your healing, they can. And it just goes for the holy paladins as well. Casting their normal stuff just demolishes your healing if they can be asked, is generally the point of view. Whereas Resto Shaman tend to work really hard and try a lot more. And they try stupid things. It's like, should I take this glyph? Should I go for haste and mastery? Or should I go pure mastery or pure haste? I don't know. I have to regen between fights. A lot of Resto Shaman doing that is actually are going to regem between certain fights depending on their level of progression, because their class plays in a completely different way depending on how many stats you've gone somewhere, right? How many stats you've put certain places really affect them. But ultimately, your Joe Blogs Disc Priest or your Joe Blogs Holy Paladin can just demolish you anyway. They don't give a shit. They're not asked. They're just like, in fact, you'll struggle to see very top-end guilds even take a Resto Shaman along. Ghostcrawler's words whether HPS is a terrible metric to measure healers. I asked you, what else do we have? I thought of some things. I thought of some things that I would say that shows me that you're a really good player. Because as a Resto Shaman, your healing isn't going to be that standout. I mean, it can be if your other healers aren't playing the best. Let's not get this wrong, okay? Some Resto Shaman's about to come out and go, I top the healing all the time. Don't be that guy. Don't be that. Don't do it. Don't be a jerk. Don't be that guy. I'm always winning. I'm all winning. And what it's about is, well, yeah, maybe, but your other healers are probably doing something wrong, which is terrible to think that if you're winning, I always do. My healers are always doing is they're probably doing something wrong, or they're lazy, or they're just not as good a player. I thought about things like dispelling. I kind of think dispelling is the go-to stuff. I had a good 2 years experience as a healer, and one thing that made people notice me was my ability to dispel really quickly. It was, in fact, 3 years. Yeah, 3 years. I had 1 year as a Holy Paladin. And as a Holy Paladin, but again, it was about prediction. One of these things that we talk about all the times as being a healer is prediction. I know the trash inside out because I'm a super nerd about mechanics. Super nerd. I can tell you the trash mob in Shattered Halls that puts a magical debuff on you that needs dispelling. And I would be waiting for it. And as soon as the icon popped up, I'd be like, 1, which is my dispel button. Dispelled. I'm super awesome. And people thought I was a cool healer. Does that count these days? Really? Not so much. In fact, maybe even LFR is a little bit to blame for that. Much as I don't like to blame LFR, is that dispelling is such a rare occurrence that bosses don't really throw out a lot of dispellable debuffs. There are some fights that are the exception, obviously. But dispellable debuffs were commonplace. In near enough every single encounter for the last 3 expansions is something that needed dispel. Some of you will have done Spine of Deathwing and know all about the power of a good dispeller. Another one might be Sinestra, where your best dispeller, Sinestra is a great example, your best healer took care of that almighty rack debuff, and you generally had one guy who wasn't a moron to go ahead and decide who the hell needed dispelling with rack, and he would be in control of the whole fucking fight. He would be the absolute gangster, right? He would be the guy. So we got Elevator Guard Jerps. So I was trying to think of, if Ghostcrawler is saying, or the developers are saying, that HPS is a terrible metric to measure a healer, what else is there? What else counts? What else is there something for an average Joe to look at and go, oh, I'm good at that? Another side of this, which is really off-putting to Resto Shamans, is sometimes it's nice to be the top healer. It's nice to know that you are competitive. It's nice to know that. It's a good feeling. Nobody likes playing a class that is always on the bottom. And if you aren't on the bottom, perhaps somebody else did something wrong. That's terrible, isn't it? That's horrible. That's a horrible situation to be in. Nobody wants to play that class. Why would you want to play that class? Why would you want to work your ass off and think, well, I did better, but, you know, I kind of guess somebody else was slacking, so, It's not fun, is it? There's a fun element missing, which is important. There's a fun element missing there. A clearly fun element. And the fun element, generally, in healing, is when you can just do outrageous things. On many occasions, I've had healers whisper me saying, dude, I just did 200k HPS. It was fucking awesome, man. You should have seen my screen. Because, of course, all healers have their healing all over their screen because they love it. It's beautiful and pretty. And it's flinging everywhere like a fountain of youth. But Resto Shamans, I feel bad for them. It's not me, it's my class. Yeah, it can be a... It can be a sort of... It can be an answer sometimes. There's some interesting points put up here. It's fucking harsh for you, it's usually at least. So me, it's my class. They are fun and needed. I would agree that the playstyle of Resto Shaman is really fun. I have a great time with my Resto Shaman. I have a really good time. Because as somebody who doesn't really care about the numbers and doesn't play it full time, I think that's something important to point out, is I don't play Resto Shaman obviously full time or even for an extended period of time. Is the actual playstyle of Resto Shaman I very much enjoy. I actually think they're a nicely balanced class. They have a lot of alternatives. They have a lot of things to measure. Where they can put out some burst when needed. They can cover lots of different arcs. And they can easily switch between single and AoE healing. And smart heals. Smart heals getting a bad rap these days. But still is cool. Totems. The loss of totems. Some people bring up the loss of totems there. Do you think that's contributed to a slightly less fun situation? Hail Wind Fury Totem. I would agree with that as well. The loss of totems is kind of disappointing. It was what the class was about. Our class was about the totems. Healing Tide Totem is notoriously bad. Right? It's really notoriously bad. Healing Stream Totem is just something we press on cooldown and doesn't mean a whole bunch of shit anymore. And it's like missing out on these little core fun things. Like popping wings on a Paladin, for instance, is awesome. Popping your Thunder Brute and popping out hundreds of revives over and over again and just seeing a whole raid pop up with fucking full health because of you is really, really fun. Doing that stuff is really fun. It's the same as popping out tons of hots and tranquilities on your druid and getting your fucking hands in the air. Doing that wonderful druidic dance is also awesome. But the shamans, they had their totems. They had their mana tide, which was key. It was key. The totems were fucking super cool, but they took them away. And now no longer necessary. A lot of Resto Shamans liked being a support class. They loved the fact that they were providing more than that. In fact, bringing back the support might be a good answer to this, right? Stormlash Totem is good, but it's hardly, you know, vital to any raid. There's not many raids saying, well, we can't raid, we haven't got Stormlash Totem, right? Dudes, we can't raid tonight without Stormlash Totem. Bro, no way. Nobody's saying that. Nobody's saying we need a Resto Shaman. Nobody's saying that they're important enough to bring. Nobody's saying we need Spirit Link, because our Displaced will do so much more. So much more. Let's not forget Ascendance. Ascendance. There's so much weight on Ascendance that it kind of annoys me a little bit. And this isn't just speaking from a Resto Shaman point of view. Ascendance is almost too good. To the point where so many people say the Shaman is good because of Ascendance. Right? That kind of understanding. It's like people say something about Shaman, it's like, yeah, Ascendance. Yeah, but don't you think this could be, yeah, Ascendance. But what about Ascendance, you know? There's a lot of weight given to Ascendance. It's a cool spell. No one's going to deny that Ascendance is really, really awesome. It is. But it's not working in combination with other things that makes it really super awesome. These are facts more than anything. Is the Resto Shaman are in decline by a long way. And Resto Shaman are also crying out. The traditionalist Resto Shamans who aren't prepared to re-roll. Many of you new players will be like, if I suck, I'm just going to re-roll. And probably have already re-rolled away from Resto Shaman. Is there anybody here who was a Resto Shaman who has re-rolled? I would be interested to see that. Is there anybody here who was a Resto Shaman and has re-rolled? And before everybody goes, me. Mr. Sleepy Pandas was, and Blue Eye Spot, me. Shaman says vanilla represent. I always get a little bit touchy. Yeah, I don't believe any of you guys now. I believe Mac Daddy, and that's it, because he's still Resto and he's loving it. As I was going to say, you totally threw me off there because I don't believe any of you at all, especially you, Kina. I don't believe you whatsoever. I played the Resto Shaman. I re-rolled to Shaman. Is a lot of traditionalist Shamans. I always wary, is what I was going to say, about bringing up subjects about Shamans. I believe they are the touchiest niche community. I believe they are the most prone to violence any besmirchment of their good shaman name. They tend to be the most defensive and the most aggressive when anybody says anything about shamans. But these are definitely valid points about Resto shamans as they're struggling and they don't seem to be getting their heyday. What I'd like to leave you with till Thursday when we discuss this is what is it about a shaman? Multiple topics. What is it about shaman that drew you to the class, a Resto shaman specifically? Why do you feel they're weak? Is it just raw numbers? Is it just your chain heal doesn't heal enough? Is it just your healing rain doesn't heal enough? Is that it? Is that what you think the problem is? Is it your cooldowns? Is healing tide totem the problem? As people point out, it is. You haven't compensated Resto. This was one of the tweets today. You haven't compensated Resto Shaman for not getting healing tide totem buffed with other raid cooldowns in 5.3, causing us to be around 20% behind. Response for that is, healing tide totem is a talent. Buffing it only makes it more mandatory for Resto. Spirit Link Totem is the Shaman raid cooldown. Do you think Shaman Spirit Link Totem is the all-inclusive? Do you think raid's desperate for Spirit Link Totem? I don't think so. I don't think they are. It's the mastery. I suppose we should speak about the mastery for just a couple of minutes. The mastery is, and this leads us into a bigger topic, so I'll try and keep this brief. The mastery, deep healing, is based around your raid not being at full health, right? That's the way the mastery works, and you do increased amounts of healing. There's a huge problem with that. And I imagine most people would say that the problem is other people heal too quickly. Other people can, like Light of Dawn is like healing. It's like spunks of healing going out there. Monk's Revive's almost the same as well. It's just like brumph, everybody's up to full health instantly with the click of a button. And people aren't dipping low enough on a regular basis to make my mastery worthwhile. I would actually disagree with some of that. I think there's a more overriding problem with healing in general right now. It's probably a topic for a different dailies. Healing overall is, as Nick Talf has pointed out, is absorbs. Absorbs are a huge problem. Absorbs for me are very detrimental to overall healer balance. And absorbs create a number of issues because absorbs don't really get wasted. Depending on how... It doesn't, in some ways, doesn't matter how bad you are, but absorbs, because you can play badly and still put out a ton of absorbs that will still get used. Obviously, a better player will get more, but if we look at, say, the workshop we did 2 weeks ago, which was a Resto Druid, we pointed out that we were throwing out our wild growth and our hots ever so slightly too late. As such, their healing was getting wasted. Okay, our healing was getting wasted. And a lot of other healers have this predictive problem. Is, oh, the damage is coming, this is when I'm going to burst, and this is when I'm going to actually put out some healing. Absorbs don't play by those rules. Absorbs don't play by those rules in any way. You can be late with an absorb, and it's more than likely still going to get used. Which then creates a huge imbalance. On top of that, there is no way to counteract somebody putting huge absorbs out. You can't defeat and outplay a good Disc Priest if he's on the top of his game. You can't do that because they are working in a way that just counteracts your entire style of play. They defeat it without even trying. They defeated you before you walked in there. If they're putting out absorbs regularly, they're getting used and people aren't taking as much damage, so you literally have less healing to do. As a team synergy, it works quite nicely because absorbs, of course, don't cover everything. We've gone very much away from the mechanic where an absorb will cover everything, but absorbs still get used. And it does create a less healing overall. Dispel his absorbs. Lol, you mad cuz like Disc Priests are up of cause of absorbs. Definitely. Definitely, that's why I'm mad. Wouldn't stop me from trying. Definitely worth trying. It's definitely worth trying, but absorbs do complicate healer balance quite considerably. Absorbs are a good idea in theory. It's preventative damage. It allows mechanics that would normally one-shot tanks to actually be countered in some effect without just damage reduction cooldowns. We have another aspect to this of effectively increasing the HP of the raid. But in terms of healer balance, that creates a great problem. If you don't have any absorbs, you literally have to pick up the slack. You are literally eating the leftovers that your Disc Priests haven't covered. Okay? You're left over with what's left, or illuminated healing, whichever it might be. Whichever those wonderful passive absorbs have done, you're left to pick up the scraps and maybe heal something up afterwards. Of course, this is a much more complex issue, and there's lots of damage and healing going around, but you get the idea that absorbs are used first, regardless of how good you are with your predictive healing. Alright. A few topics there for you healers. I want to get into a healer-themed week next week. We're looking at an overall caster finale, a summary of all the casters. Who do we think is the best? Caster in all of Mr. Pandaria. That should be coming out for you tomorrow, I would have thought. I have to go and do some hardware stuff tonight. And your big video this week, I hope you're looking forward to it. It's going to be pretty cool. So we talked about pigs in blankets, a surprise for somebody, transmogs, and healing. So leave that with us. Alright, guys. Have a great evening, whatever you're doing. Hope you're playing some stuff. As some of you have noticed, some of you are now trying to guess what the next PG video is, and some of you saw me drop into Call of Duty today for a couple of hours while I was rendering. I played a little bit of Call of Duty. Try not to spoil things for yourself. Okay? Try not to spoil things for yourself. Take it easy, guys, and have a great evening. I'll see you tomorrow, 5 p.m. GMT. Alright, 5 p.m. GMT, wherever you are in the world. Bye, all.